You want to keep rolling, or do you got to check the ham?
Can we get a ham check?
Welcome to RetroGroove. Enjoy your voyage.
Howdy and welcome to RetroGroove. I'm Adam C.
And I'm Liam D.
And this is a podcast where we talk about music that stands the test of time, the albums and artists that have shaped and reshaped the sonic landscape, as well as covering new music from those artists. Today is a very, very special episode of RetroGroove. It is our first 3-player episode. We have very, very special guest, Seth Sturgill, on with us. How you doing, Seth?
Hey, man. Dude, you got my last name right. That never happens. I'm so impressed. It's
Who
rare.
doesn't get that right?
Oh my gosh, it's so rare. Growing up, people are like, is it Sturgill? Is it Strudel? I don't know. You know,
Strudel?
I got that constantly.
You're on a music podcast now. Sturgill Simpson is the man.
Exactly.
So that's like, there's
that's
no way to
exactly
not.
it.
Yeah, so you can credit it to him for me at least.
There you go. That's exactly it, dude. I'm so happy to be here, guys. What an honor. I'm a huge fan. I'm prepared to enjoy my voyage. You know, here on
Yes.
RetroGroove. So
Yeah.
I'm stoked, guys. I'm stoked.
Sweet.
It's all
Excited
about
to
the
have
voyage. Well, for those that don't know, Seth is a major friend of the podcast as well as the whole Retro Logic crew. Seth is from the All N podcast and recently produced a really impressive YouTube video called Jet Set Radio and Nintendo Missed Connections. And I, being a huge fan of the Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future games, we had kind of been throwing the idea around for quite a while, Liam and I, of doing a gaming music episode, and nothing ever really panned out, and there wasn't really the moment for it. We kind of let the show take its own course and let kind of pop culture kind of move us rather than us trying to force something to happen. And so I'm really, really glad that this happened. And I think your video is what kind of finally broke the ice on us doing this. So thank you for taking the time out. What an awesome video, man. That must have been so much work.
It was, yeah. It took a while. It took longer than it should have, honestly. It just, there were a lot of moving parts to it. And for those who have seen the video, they know it required the input of like another person. So there was a lot of back and forth there. And it was so much fun, though. Like, I'm so passionate about that game and, you know, the music of that game I connect with on, it's not an exaggeration, like literally like a spiritual level. That game's music speaks so much
I hear
to me.
you.
So
And we'll be getting into that. That's going to be the primary focus of our B-side today. But to break the ice on RetroGroove here, typically what we'll do is just kind of talk about what we've been listening to, what's been, playing on our car stereo or on our home stereo, and any, significant album purchases. So, Seth, since you're our guest today, we'll start with you. What have you been listening to recently?
Yeah, so I have a really eclectic music taste. So
Yes.
it's really nice to be on this show because I love music, and I'm like you, Adam, a hobbyist musician, and I've played guitar for like 17 years.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah, and I sing as well, and so it's nice. I never really get to talk about that. Everybody knows me as like the Nintendo guy, the podcast guy, but I love to sing and play guitar and stuff, and I'm a big musical theater nerd. You know, I love jazz and punk rock and hip hop, and I have a very eclectic music taste.
Love it.
I
So
gotta ask,
lately.
Seth, wait,
Sure.
so you were on I think it was Nintendo Dads or something recently, and you mentioned that you'd been playing the Tony Hawk remakes.
Yeah.
And we did a show on that at one point, talking about just some of the
Yes.
music that was in those legendary games. But you had mentioned that you used to be like a skater yourself, kind of, or you used to like mess around in that scene a little bit. And now I'm like, all right, well,
Big
you're
time.
you're a guitarist. You used to skate. What are we talking about here? Are we talking some punk stuff? Like what?
Definitely.
right.
So I grew up in Chicago, and the punk scene in
Nice.
Chicago is huge.
Yeah.
Huge over there. So I mean, I grew up riding a skateboard, playing street hockey, and listening to like industrial punk rock music. You know, stuff like Peg Boy and 88 Fingers Louie, and
Wow.
I was hardcore into that growing up, and still am. You know, I still like to tap into that. I haven't ridden a skateboard in many, many years, but I was definitely feeling that nostalgic place. You know,
Yeah.
and just super into that. Super into that scene. Yeah, I love
It's
it.
kind of rough at our age, trust me.
Yeah. You
I-
can still
I
play
got-
the guitar,
I actually-
though. Yeah.
I do.
Yes.
I do still play the guitar as often as I can make time for it. I love to just, you know, chill out here in the office and, you know, hit the acoustic guitar. My singing voice is kind of suited for acoustic. So that's normally what I play because it's just suited better to my singing voice.
Nice.
But yeah, I have kind of like a more like a softer tone to my voice, and
You seem soulful. I feel like there's some soul.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah, a lot
Dig
of
it.
people like I get compared a lot to like an Iron and Wine kind of vibe. You know,
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Not just
so-
the beard. Yeah.
Not just the beard. Yeah. I have that going for me too, I guess. But no, I love to sing and play guitar, and yeah, I grew up in that kind of Chicago punk rock scene, and you know, yeah, music's a huge part of my life, and like I said, it's nice to get to come on here and talk about it. I hardly ever get to. In terms of what I've been listening to lately, you guys know I never shut up about Porter Robinson's new album, Nurture. I never shut up about it. I can't stop listening to it. It came out last year, and I just haven't stopped listening to it. Like literally, I listen to it on a daily basis.
Awesome.
It's one of those albums, and you know, it's EDM, and EDM's not for everybody, but like for me, that album, it's just one of those moments in time where you listen to it and you're like, that was one of the most impactful experiences I've ever had with art. You know,
Wow.
just like it blew me away. Like from the lyrics to the production, just a wonderful. You know, I connected with it so deeply as a creative person. I can't say enough good things about it. That's like the main thing, and then like. Everything else is just sort of like smatterings from, like I said, I'm really eclectic. Like I could be, you know, driving in the car listening to like Duke Ellington at the same time as I'm
Nice.
listening to like Descendants or the Encanto soundtrack. You know what I mean? I'm
Yes.
very eclectic.
Are you like sequencing that kind of stuff for yourself, Seth? Like, do you
No.
go into the car and you're like, I'm gonna listen to Billie Holiday, or are you just like shuffle, or like how do you do that kind of stuff? Like, what's your approach for that sort of thing?
I get in the car and I'm like, what am I in the mood for? And I have like a million different playlists, and I'm just like, you know, do I go to the punk playlist? Do I go to the Chicago punk playlist? Do I go to the, you know, do I go to the soulful kind of playlist? I have a million little playlists. I have playlists for specific moods. I have an autumn playlist, you know,
Nice.
like just songs that make me feel like the fall season and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've got Seth's dopamine list, just songs that I can't be sad when I listen to, you know. And,
Amazing.
yeah, it varies, man.
Very
My taste
curated.
is so eclectic. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
I feel like if you had an eclectic music taste, it was so much harder for many reasons before you had streaming services like this, right? Like, I still have a CD wallet in my car that I'll go to, and look, I'll patch in and I'll stream stuff off of my phone just like everybody else, but I still remember back in the day where like you sat down in your car and you were like, what do I want to listen to? And you had 20 options in your CD wallet,
Right,
yeah.
or the 10 that were on your visor or whatever, and you're like,
Yeah, the-
I guess it's Fiona Apple today. Like,
Yeah.
what am I gonna do?
the visor. That brings
Yeah,
me
man.
back.
Yeah, those things are
Good
cool.
old car visors.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I kind of miss those. I kind of pine for those days sometimes, but it's so nice to just be able to pull
It
out the
is.
phone and listen to whatever
Yeah.
I want. You know what I mean? So, but yeah,
Yeah.
nothing like the only thing that's set in stone in my current musical diet is Porter Robinson. Everything else is just a grab bag.
I've got before we go any further, Seth. Here, I'm gonna do this in tribute to you tonight. I've got I've got a bottle of Coca-Cola Starlight.
Gosh.
It's diet.
Man.
So throughout the episode
man.
tonight, I'm just gonna do this for you. All right.
Okay, let me get that. Let me get that gut reaction. How's that going down for you there, Liam?
So I picked up the regular version. You and I were tweeting about it the other day. I picked up the standard version. I don't drink regular soda. I only drink diet soda. But I was like, I got to get this, whatever. And I tasted it, and it's god awful. And then I saw the Coke Zero version of it today at the store, and I was like, well, this is just serendipitous that I'm going to be sitting with Seth tonight. And there's diet Coca-Cola Starlight in the store. So
it really is the worst. I cannot recommend it. It really is the worst.
It's cotton candy. Yeah, it's cotton candy.
Is that what it tastes like? You get notes of cotton candy.
Have you ever had bubble yum cotton candy? Like the actual cotton candy flavored jelly beans or whatever. But
I don't want to drink it.
No, I've heard that, but then I heard another one. I can't really pinpoint it. I did a tier list video on our YouTube channel recently, and I was drinking it throughout that video just as kind of like a fun little, YouTube content, whatever. and I'm drinking it, and I'm like, it literally, I can't. Nothing else tastes exactly like this to me. Mm-hmm. It's like you poured a bunch of cinnamon in a cherry Coke Zero, and like it's got like kind of a hint of like graham cracker. It's just gross.
I'm gonna look for the cinnamon. Hold on, I'm gonna look for the cinnamon here. Yeah, it tastes like garbage.
I can't do it, guy. This podcast clearly not sponsored by Coca-Cola. So
no, not sponsored by Coca-Cola. But maybe Adam, maybe when we have guests in the future, each time we have a guest on, we'll have them pick something that I need to eat that's just terrible. We can just do that.
Yeah, you can do that. I'm good. Like
you're gonna pass. Yeah. So for me and Adam, I'm very excited to share this with you. Although I don't know if you scrolled through our prep doc or whatever, but I had a jaw-dropping moment at my record store this week because my record of the year appeared at the record store.
There it is.
It's Tyler, the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost. Now, here's the thing. So Adam got me on Discogs, and I've been using Discogs, and I can't figure out what this is, Adam. Like, I don't know what it is. It was way too much money. I'm telling you that I spent a lot of money on this, and I didn't even think twice. And I was in a gaming store this same day, and was looking at copies of Buck Bumble and Rat Attack for Nintendo 64 because I kind of want to pick them up. And I know I'm looking at price charting, and I'm like, this guy's asking $20 over. Like, I'm not buying this, right? And then I go to the record store and I see this, and I'm like, I don't care what Discogs says. I'm buying.
I don't care
this
how
thing.
much it is. Yep.
So I don't know what's wrong with my brain. But yeah.
Well, when it means something to you, the price doesn't matter. That's what
right.
it comes down to.
That's what it is.
You know what I mean?
But
I just spent
Adam,
like
there's
$70
no barcode
on an NES game.
Like I can't
we'll have
find
to look it up.
I looked it up based on the code on the side of it, and it says it's like an unauthorized European thing. But like
could be.
It's got the Columbia logo, but there's no barcode. So I don't know what's going on here, but I was like, it's the only copy they had, and I was like, I'm gonna have to
my
pull the trigger
local
on that.
calls those imports with the the air quotes.
Yeah,
they're
that's
imports.
exactly right. Yeah, yeah. But so I'm excited to have it because, like, again, it was my favorite album of last year, and I'm like, I don't own it. Like, I don't have any tangible thing. I just keep streaming the thing.
If it's your album of the year, I
gotta have it
means
somewhere.
something to you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Have you been listening to anything else?
Yeah. I'll try not to bring Kanye up too much. I promise.
It's all right. That's fine.
I've been watching his documentary, the 3-part documentary. I'm 2 of the 3 parts in. It's really good. And it's that era of him leading up to College Dropout and then into the second album. And the second album's just been my jam. So, like, watching everything that was going on behind the scenes with him and Jay-Z and Dame Dash at the time, and then, like, going back and re-experiencing these albums as I experienced them when they just were actually released, it's just like that new perspective of, oh my God, now I've seen him in the studio with Jay-Z. I've seen him in the studio with Jamie Foxx, and that now I have the context behind what happened on that little snippet of a sample or something like that.
How cool is that? Yeah.
So it's really cool. I picked up Arlo Parks's Collapse in Sunbeams. I had it on CD, but like I've just like fallen even more in love with this album. I know, Adam, this one's like a personal fave of yours too.
That was my album
right?
of the year last year.
Yeah. I guess I picked up both of our albums of the year this past year.
Nice.
This past week. I didn't even realize that. But
Awesome.
I was listening in the car to it, admittedly, and I was like, it's not my favorite album to listen to in the car. I like it a lot, but it was that same thing we've talked about before about like contextual listening and when things fit. And I'm like, I bought this on CD because it was convenient and I wanted to listen in my car, but I kind of want to have it on around the house, you know, like this is something that like I found myself throwing on my like Bluetooth speakers at home, and I actually wanted it on my turntable. So I snagged that, and then the last thing,
most of my favorite albums, it actually takes a while to like get into you.
Yeah,
and you're right. It's not really a driving album. It's an active listening album, and I don't know. People are different. I can't do active listening albums in the car. Yeah, I really can't.
Yeah.
I get distracted.
Yeah, I need to be in the right mood, and that mood is really, I mean, if I'm driving and I'm in that mood, I hope someone's checking on me maybe, but I probably need to be home for like, so I'm like, I'll spring for us twice. I love this artist. I love this album, and it's one of those rare things where I'm like, I'm going to get a second copy of it in a different format because it fits better. And then I don't know if we've ever talked about, like, I haven't gone down too much of the rabbit hole of like the Long Island emo punk scene from the 2000s that I was immersed in.
Not too much.
So there's like that Taking Back Sunday brand new era of bands that kind of came out, and Taking Back Sunday splintered at one point, and there was this spin-off band called Stray Light Run, who they sing songs about basically my hometown and like our highway and all that kind of stuff. But they had some crossover success. They were pretty big. So anyway, they every once in a while would get back together. They recorded a live concert at a theater a few towns away from me, and pressed that on vinyl. And so like as I was digging around, I didn't even realize this thing came out, and it's live at the Patchogue Theater, and I was like, okay, well, I could walk there half the time, you know, like, so that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And then the last thing is my daughter has been jamming to BTS, and like
there it is.
It's It was bound to happen, and I'm fine with it. It's weird that it's because of a Samsung commercial, you know, like she was
weird.
exposed to it because like you can see them. I think it's in that like folding phone commercial or something like that. But you can like see the band, like the band members appear or whatever, and she just wants to listen to Butter like over and over and over again, and it's such a good song, so I'm fine with it. I don't think that I'm gonna take her to a BTS concert yet. Like that seems very intense, but I am kind of itching to like, now that there's the live music thing happening, I'm kind of itching to like take her to a concert. So we'll see. We gotta see what's gonna be out there.
They're gonna like what they're gonna like. There's only so much we can do.
That's right. That's right. What about you,
I had
Adam?
a little BTS moment there. I can't lie.
I mean, K-pop is infectious, man, and we're gonna have to talk J-pop on side B, because J-pop is at the core of what we're talking about here. So,
very much.
Yeah,
so.
it's all there. What do you got, Adam?
Well, as y'all know, I didn't necessarily go public with it or anything, but I spent the majority of this last week down for the count with COVID. So, as careful as we were, got 2 kids in public school with no mask mandates. It was just a matter of when, not if. So, we were all, just hunkered down for the week, which means I didn't get to the record store because I was trying to follow the CDC guidelines. So I didn't purchase anything, but finally my tricolor pressing of Lucifer on the Sofa finally came in after it being delayed. And it's beautiful, and it's already going for like $90+ on Discogs. So,
oh man,
and it's like the most. So I'm glad I wasn't going to get that pressing because it was like 30. I think it was like 35. I bought it last year, pre-ordered it, so I don't even remember like how much I paid for it. Yeah. So Texas Trey kind of sent the link out when it was like you had to follow a specific link. I can't remember. I think it was maybe like a Spotify subscriber exclusive. But like if you had the link, you could get to that page. So it wasn't like you couldn't go to the Spoon page or the Matador page and just find it. It was like a special subscriber type thing. But he sent the link out in the RetroGroove Discord, and I kind of mulled it over. I was like, well, like it's Spoon. It's basically my favorite band in the universe, so I'm gonna buy the album before I hear it, because I'm not typically big on pre-ordering albums. But I went back and forth on it. I wasn't gonna do it, and then I was gonna do it. Then I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. But I went ahead and did it. So I'm glad I did, because again, now it's like going for upwards of $90 on Discogs, because it was like an exclusive kind of thing. I'm not selling it, but I'm just happy that it turned out to be like the most valuable pressing.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous with the orange and the cream and the black. It's just a really, really, really beautiful looking piece of vinyl.
I feel like I'm like that with limited run games. There's like I do the same thing with those like super rare or whatever they are, like limited physical printings, where I sit there and I mull it over and I'm like, and sometimes I forget that I bought it, and it shows up a few months later, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah, that's surprise for me. It's like a Christmas present. Yeah.
Yeah. I did my first limited run purchase this past week, so it felt very strange to purchase a game that I might not see for 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, what was it?
Other Side.
I don't know that one.
It's like a dark horror / tactical RPG.
Okay.
Sounds cool.
It's been out. It's actually on the eShop, and it's been on the eShop for a while, but it's coming. This is its first like physical release, and it looks kind of right up my alley. So hopefully that pans out well. And it's limited run, which means that if I don't like it, or if it ends up, not working out for me, I can sell it for probably exactly.
Yeah.
So most of my music listening completely revolves around like what's happening on the podcast. So I did a lot of Rancid deep diving on, mostly albums that I hadn't heard before. Thanks to Liam's amazing expose on Rancid, Tim Armstrong, and the whole East Bay sound on our previous episode. Thank you, Liam.
Yeah.
So then I get into like prep mode for the upcoming episode. So I've been listening to the Jet Set Radio Future soundtrack.
Yes.
So and it brought back. It's so amazing that, because I used to play so much of that game, just like hours, but I haven't played it for like 20 years. So it's amazing to me that hearing a particular song will put me like right back in that environment, and like I'm there in the sewers under Tokyoto or whatever. It's just like, and then also, so there were a few other artists on that soundtrack that I had already loved, so it just made me even more excited to hear those songs when they came through in the game. So I've been listening to a few of those, one of which is, and I'm going to hold the record up here, unfortunately our listeners can't see it, Chibomato.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
The song Birthday Cake, I believe, is the one that was on the soundtrack. One of my favorite genre-defying groups. I wish they would do more music. I don't know what they're up to now individually, but I mean, Mio Hattori went on to be one of the members of the Gorillaz.
Right.
In addition to that, I've got another one here. You ready? BS 2000, which most people are like, "What is that?"
Same.
So the song The Scrappy, which was kind of their hit, has the remix version is on the Jet Set Radio Future soundtrack, and
So good.
It's so good. This is Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys.
What?
And yeah, I know. Yeah, everyone should listen to this. It is the craziest music. It's amazing. So I mean, this kind of stuff, it goes like part and parcel with the Jet Set Radio Future soundtrack, because it's like, it's goofy but cool at the same time, and there's just like, they've got like kind of weird samples and a drum machine and two weird keyboards, and it's just them like yelling and pseudo rapping over what they're doing with the drum machine and the two keyboards. It's amazing. And I'm so happy that I own this. And it was something that me and my brother got super into in the early, probably 2000, 2001. It's so much fun. So I've been listening to that. And a little bit of Biss. There's a Biss song. Biss is like a really interesting. If you listen to them, you would think like, oh, this is like a J-pop group, but they're from Scotland. So they're a really fun, pop group that also kind of has that same vibe. It makes sense to put them on the Jet Set Radio Future album. And I was a big fan of theirs, particularly their album Return to Central. And so I've been going back and listening to them. And so it's been really fun going down that rabbit hole of, oh, like this soundtrack is amazing, but it brings back so many memories and threw me down these other artists' rabbit holes. And it's been, and I've had a lot of time this week being basically quarantined to go down those rabbit holes. So it's been fun. That's what I've been listening to.
I was braced. I'm on Discogs now because that's what you do.
Looking
at Simply Mortified. And it's not as expensive as I thought. It's like 30 something bucks plus shipping because it looks like it's all from the UK. So
yeah,
I'll probably have to sit on this for a minute. But
yeah, this is a UK press. Listen to it first.
Yeah. I'm
the
gonna.
other
I'm
weird
gonna
thing
have to. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it's not on any streaming services.
Yeah, that's another one of those, right? Man.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not. I guess it's not super rare. It's just one of those that like. You could probably buy it on Discogs, but I actually found this at my local, which I was like, holy moly! And it was only, I think it was like $25.
Wow.
But it sounds funny, but it means so much to me because me and my brother spent so much time with it at just one of those pivotal moments in your life. And like Dan would take tracks from it and use it for his crazy like robot videos and stuff like that. It's on, some of it's on YouTube. We'll have to drop the link in the Discord, but yeah,
that's awesome.
It's a really, really fun listen. So particularly being from New York, I think you'll really like it.
I just feel like I'm about to drink trash soda and buy weird Beastie Boys spin-off LPs in the middle of the night tonight.
It is definitely my favorite of all of the Beastie Boys spin-off projects. It's so much fun. Really, really fun.
All right, let's do we want to get into, well, you said you got a little game. Do you want to hit that, or you want to go through some of this new stuff? Yeah, we can do that.
That'll be fun.
All right, cool.
So I don't, this is just for fun. I don't know how well this is going to go over, and we can do hints and stuff like that if we want. Sure. But so I know we did the Tony Hawk music episode, but that was, actual real world artists and their tracks.
Yeah, it was licensed
in the video game. Right.
Yeah, right.
So this is our first like video game music episode, meaning music that was composed specifically for the game. And so I thought I was like, what's a good like marriage of those two? And there seems to be a whole lot of hip hop artists that like to reference video games in their songs. So I've got a handful of lyrical snippets here for y'all, and going from easy to hard mode.
All right.
And so I'm going to say the lyric, and I'm going to try not to like give any hints away with like the flow. Not that I know how to flow or anything like that.
I'm excited for your flow.
I'm ready for it.
Okay,
right,
so I'm going to read the lyric, and then y'all can try to guess just the artist. You don't need to name the song or anything like that. Just give me the artist. So the first one's probably pretty easy, but we'll start there, okay? And here we go. Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. When I was dead broke, man, I couldn't picture this.
It's not ringing a bell.
Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. When I was dead broke, man, I couldn't picture this.
I mean, it's got to be older, right? Because
A little bit.
like you're not gonna have. Well, I guess you could have a newer rapper citing Sega Genesis, but I'm gonna say we're talking like 2010 at the latest.
Earlier than that. This is
Earlier than that.
East Coast rapper, probably one of the biggest.
Rapper.
One of the biggest.
Oh, is it Biggie?
It's Biggie, Notorious B.I.G.
Wow.
And Juicy. Super Nintendo.
Oh, that's in
Sega
Juicy.
Genesis.
That's right. It is in Juicy. Man.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. No points. We don't care about points
That's
here. We're just
fine.
having fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can get this one. Another East Coast artist. Ready? Mm-hmm. Behold the bold soldier, control the globe slowly, proceeds to blow, swinging swords like shinobi.
Oh, that's Wu-Tang. Yeah.
That's Wu-Tang.
But I think he says swing swords.
Swords.
Swords. Yeah.
Swing
I was
swords
gonna-
like shinobi.
Love. I am a huge Wu-Tang fan. I'm one of those that like I try to, not play too much that's kind of like not kid friendly when my kids are around.
Right,
But
right.
I will have some Wu-Tang playing because
happens.
Wu-Tang is for the children.
You got to watch those ODB and Ghostface verses, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's selective, but yeah. So yeah, good job on that one, Wu-Tang. Okay, now we're getting a little bit harder, and we might have to do hints. But this one goes: "I'm sorry, like Atari, who's the cousin to Coleco. Vision
Sorry, like-
caught a Rico back on the streets like Chico."
Yeah. I know this one for sure.
You know this one?
Sorry, like Atari. That doesn't take a Lego. Yeah. That's it's Outcast. I'm trying to think of the song,
Yes. You don't have to. You got
I'm
the
trying,
artist.
but I want
Got the
to.
artist.
Oh, okay.
My lord. It's off of Aquemini, for
Yes,
sure.
it is off of Aquemini.
Is Skew It on the Barbie?
It is Skew It on the
Come
Barbie.
on.
Man.
Dang.
Man, dude. The slam
Sorry, like
dunk.
Atari. The cousin to Coleco.
Well, we did that.
Impressive.
We did that Southern hip hop episode too. So,
I love Outcast.
all right. Okay, so this one is hard mode, and I don't actually expect that y'all will get this.
Liam's going to get
but-
it immediately.
but it's right. But it's so good that I had
Yeah.
to include it just for that reason. But I've got a good hint if y'all want a hint. So okay. Rival schools, Batsu, purchase you ought to. It came with one free CD. It's like I bought two. I hope they make part 2 for Dreamcast, 'cause games I seen in mags you won't believe they have. Yeah, I'll admit that PlayStation improved. Come visit feudal Japan with me and Tenchu. Bushido Blade 2 with swordplay so accurate. Mega Man Legends, but I had to buy a map for it.
I mean, that's incredible. I'm gonna
I love
guess,
those lyrics.
I feel like Method Man and RZA are our comic and video game nerds in that era and that area, so I'm gonna throw it into either of those. But
That's a really good guess, but no. This is one that's got a really, and you can it's a very kind of unique kind of flow, and that's kind of his signature. It's very like loosey goosey, but
Is it Doom?
no, that's also a really good guess.
Okay.
This person, I'm gonna give it away, but this person was prominent on the early Gorillaz releases.
Del the Funky Homo Sapien?
Yeah, it was Dell. It's Dell.
Okay, cool. Nice. Yeah.
There's no other way that y'all would. I had to include that. When I read that,
That's incredible.
Those lyrics are amazing.
Yeah, what's it from, Adam? Do you know what's the song? Do you know?
It's from a song called Protoculture.
Wow. All
It's
right.
not from Deltron 3030. It's from another album that I'm not familiar with, but I had to include it because it's so good.
That's
so now
amazing.
I've got when you ask me what I've been listening to next episode, I'm sure we're going to talk about Dell.
There it is.
Because I'm going to go down that rabbit hole now because that's amazing. Good stuff.
Yeah. Did you look this stuff up by like searching lyrics and then like Sega, or like how did you find these, or did you just know some of them off the top of your head?
Well, I had the idea, and obviously I knew like the Biggie one is the biggest off the top of my head, and then the Shinobi like popped into my head as well. And then I was like, well, I wonder if there's others, and then I just searched like video game references and rap songs and just like went through and saw, okay, which ones might be possible to guess. And then I saw Outkast and I was like, okay, Liam might get that one, but it's kind of a deep cut. But damn, you nailed that one.
Well, Aquemini, I love Aquemini too.
And then I saw that Dell one and I was like, holy moly, I just want to say those words into a microphone. So I just picked that one.
That's amazing. It's funny because I definitely remember when there would be, because hip hop always has shout outs like that, right? That's like a part of that kind of culture. And I'd be listening. There's a album cut on Busta Rhymes's "When Disaster Strikes," and he says something like, "I'm gonna play your ass out like a game on my Sega Genesis" or something like that. And I remember listening to that when I'm in like 9th grade and being like, oh man, maybe I'm cool. Like maybe like, I play video games and I'm listening to this. Like you and me, Busta. Like I'm here with you, man. Yeah,
we got it.
For me, it's easier to pick out video game music samples in songs where they'll sample pieces of video game music. I can pick that up pretty quickly. There was a Lil Uzi Vert song of all things that sampled a Super Monkey Ball 2 track.
Man.
And that one was, I'm a huge
serious?
Monkey Ball fan. Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah, Liam referenced one this past week. There's a Mr. Bungle song with the RBI baseball.
Yeah, like the victory scoreboard thing from RBI baseball.
It's at the very end of the track. I listened to it. Really cool. Okay, so that was fun and went over a little bit better than I had anticipated.
Yeah, that was great, man. Thanks for doing that.
I was happy to ride on Liam's coattails there. I was happy to do that.
Liam wins.
I can't believe I missed that Juicy verse though, but I like Biggie. I'm not super well versed, admittedly. So
no, I don't expect you to know all the rap lyrics for everything. You got the Outkast one and even knew the album and the song. So I was like, dang, that you redeemed yourself there for sure.
That was impressive. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So let's go over some this day in music history and birthdays really quick. And then we will flip it over and just let Seth loose. And
I do want to, I have a question or two for you real quick though. So Texas Man, real quick, South by Southwest coming up. How you feeling? Like, does town get crazy for you? Are you good? Like,
see, okay, I'm not a big festival person. I like a more intimate, but then South by Southwest is a little bit different.
Yeah, it turns that city into a zoo. You get like people get rowdy and crazy. Plus, Beck's gonna be there, man. Like, come on. He's a keynote speaker, though. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. People like me avoid the downtown metro area during South by Southwest. It's just an absolute cluster. But usually some friends that, I barely get to see come into town. It's great for the city economically. It kind of puts us on the map, so that's good. But yeah, it's like I don't want to go anywhere near down the downtown area when South by is going on. It's like I'm so much more of an intimate venue kind of person. Like I don't like going to arena shows. I don't like going to festivals. It's just too many people. Like, and I don't dislike people. I'll go to concerts. I love going to concerts, but like, give me like an amphitheater with like 3,000 people, or give me a club show with like 1,000 or 1,500 people, and I'm really, really happy.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want to be, viewing the artist that I came to see on a jumbo screen. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to be able to like see them up close and personal. So I typically avoid those kind of shows.
Yeah. Well, and that thing, I mean, so it just takes over every little venue and restaurant and bar that is within like a square mile of downtown. So I just wonder, like, I don't know how often you wind up going into that area to begin with, but like, it just seems like a huge X on the map for 2 weeks of like, I can't even drive through that area because everything is just a mess. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in Austin, you can't really drive through that area anyway.
That's true. Yeah.
But the traffic is terrible. But
yeah.
Pre-COVID, there would be some reason for me to go towards the downtown area at least once or twice a month, whether it was, going to an Alamo Ritz showing of something crazy. Like at one time we went to go see the Transformers movie that they had playing. Not the new ones, like the animated one from like the early 80s.
Oh, cool.
I should add.
Nice.
Yeah, because they'll show crazy stuff like that, and it'll like only be at a specific Alamo location.
Right.
Or, going to the Mohawk or Stubbs, one of the iconic Austin venues. Emo's isn't even downtown anymore.
Right.
So I'll go there quite a bit. But I haven't really been down there. Like the closest I got was when Liam came to town last year, and we went to go visit with him at Radio in South Austin.
That was pretty south,
for some. So that was like the first and only time that I've actually been down in that area, since pre-COVID. So I'm still waiting for like the right show to come back to the and now that I've actually had COVID, I feel a little bit more like, okay, now
Sure.
now I've already had it, so what's the worst that could happen?
Maybe.
So
yeah.
I'm with you though, dude. I like those kind of smaller, more intimate venues.
Sure.
I was just there for ACL last year.
What?
Because Porter, I was just down there for ACL last November. I met up with Dan and had coffee with Dan. And
wait, ACL, not the festival. You went to the venue?
It was, no. It was they were doing it at the Moody Theater there.
Okay, got it.
And Porter was doing his Nurture tour as part of that.
Got it. Okay,
so
cool.
had to go for that. I'm like, this is one of my favorite albums of all time, if not my favorite album of all time. I've got to see it live, and it was one of the most incredible shows I've ever been to. And
it's a great venue.
I mean I love that venue. Like the way it was laid out was like perfect for me. And we didn't have great seats. I mean, we were up there in the in the nosebleeds, but it was still, I mean, you could see everything. The way the sound was distributed. I mean, it was awesome, man.
Yeah, Moody is amazing, and they did set it up to where even if you have not great seats, it still feels like you're up close and personal to the artist.
Yeah,
and you're right. Like especially having been officially trained as a sound engineer, that venue has the best sound of any live venue I've ever been to in my life. So any show that you see at Moody is going to be amazing. So that was a good show to go to and worth the trip for, for you.
Dude, it was so worth it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Well, so South by's, I mean, it was a big music festival or a music experience, I think, in that town. And it's more tech and film and stuff like that now.
It's a lot of different things.
Used to be able to walk around and you'd see, Prince played in like this tiny room, and the Foo Fighters were going to play at on 6th Street somewhere or whatever. It just doesn't really happen. Like I feel like I saw LL Cool J perform on a big bag of Doritos at one point, and I was like, "What is this? Doesn't make any sense. Like, what's even happening?" So it is what it is. And then Seth, you play Wordle, is that right? I feel like I've seen you post Wordle stuff. Oh, you did? You're done.
I did for a long time. My wife and I fell off of it hard because we had... So I won't get on too deep of a tangent about this, but
go ahead.
my wife and I, that was our daily ritual. Every day, we would both do the Wordle at the same time, and we would, compare notes and how long did it take you, and kind of what was your pathway to finding the word and everything. And then not long after the shift to New York Times, we ended up getting different words one day.
What?
And yes, that's something
possible?
that is possible. It is possible. Some kind of weird thing with after they shifted to the New York Times, some of the databases didn't transfer over right or something like that. So we got different words, and that completely killed it.
Yeah.
Completely killed it. Like the second, it's one of those. I'm like, I can have 100 great meals at your restaurant, but when I have a really bad experience, like that's what kills it.
It's
for me,
over.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's totally what it was.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. I could totally see the communal aspect of it, though. Like, once that magic's kind of broken, then it's not the same thing anymore.
My wife was like, yeah, I guessed aroma, and it wasn't that. I'm like, yes, it was. It was aroma. That was the word. And she's like, no, it was agora. I'm like, what in the world?
Weird.
Man.
Well, I don't know if this is going to be up your alley because it apparently is hyper tethered to recent charts, like the top last 10 years. But now there's Hurdle, like hearing, and it plays you a little snippet of a song, and then you can keep adding on seconds, and I think that you can do it 4 or 5 times and get longer durations of the song. I wish it was a little more expansive, but then again, like if it was, then you're really going all different genres. But my wife and I have been doing that. She throws it up on her phone. It was a Fleetwood Mac song randomly, which I guess that trended at some point. But then it was a Kanye song that I didn't know off of Yeezus yesterday, and I was like, okay, maybe this app doesn't work for us. I don't know. So I'm gonna give it a go, and we'll see.
That sounds fun.
It's neat.
And then the last thing I just wanted to mention was that Bandcamp thing. I know we posted that in the Discord. We were talking about it.
Right.
I mean, it's really interesting. Obviously, we've been talking on the video game side of things about all of the acquisitions and the mergers and stuff like that. This one I feel like is weird, and we don't know what exactly it means, but there has been a lot of music in Fortnite, right? Like those have been really big things. They had Ariana Grande and Travis Scott concerts in that platform. Yeah. You've had bands that have done like online experiences. It's more of a thing. There's been a lot of talk from Meta about doing like virtual concert type things and experiences like that. And so I can see where, especially with the way that TikTok is. I mean, again, I don't know if you guys use TikTok much. I don't use it a ton. My wife does. But like the way that that's impacted how music is exposed to people and the things that can trend have forced the record labels and the industry to pivot, because it's undeniable that all of a sudden something that record label put out 7 years ago is trending because someone went like this with their hands, right? And turned it into a meme, and now it's the most streamed thing in their catalog. So I feel like there could be something like that here that Epic is looking to dip its toe into. There's been talks about how Bandcamp wants to use it to, I think, kind of do something like you were talking about before, Adam, with that exclusive vinyl thing for Spotify. Like if you're playing Fortnite and you hear a certain song, like maybe you can get access to that artist's merch or something like that. Like maybe there's a way to tether in that kind of stuff into the gameplay, and then it can boost then their internal numbers on the Bandcamp side. There's a bunch of different possibilities. It doesn't seem to gel naturally in your head. I think both of them are going to try to figure out what this is, but it is. I don't feel like it stymies things as much as again, like those acquisitions that we're talking about with the game developers. Like that feels like you're siloing. This feels like it could be an expansive platform or just like new engagement opportunities. I don't know. Like I don't know. Have you guys done any of the Fortnite concerts? Because I haven't. But I've watched the recaps, and they're pretty cool. Like I see people jumping around to Travis Scott, like a gigantic Travis Scott. Like that's kind of neat. It's a neat idea,
I can definitely see how something like that would be, fun and interesting for, younger generations. Obviously us old guys don't want to go to a virtual. I mean, I did a couple. I think I did one of the Clutch ones, and I did the Primus one where it was, a virtual concert, but it was actually them playing with various camera angles and all that. It was fine. It certainly didn't replace the actual concert going experience for me. The only thing that I'm not like the get off my lawn guy just yet. Like, I'm really, really open to new technology and new experiences and things going in ways that I never could have imagined them going because the technology allows it to. My only potential issue is that, we kind of had this discussion recently on a recent episode about how artists are treated and how, for some reason, music in particular seems to be uniquely exploitable as an art form. And Bandcamp was kind of, or is at this point, kind of the last bastion of fair treatment to the artist. It's a place where the artist can go and put their music up, and Bandcamp takes like, I've sold things on Bandcamp myself, maybe 20, they take like 20 or 30%, and the artist gets the rest of it, and they have free Fridays where the artist gets 100%. So it's like, there's no other platform other than selling vinyl direct or other merch, physical merch, directly to your fans via your own website or your own distribution, that the artists are treated fairly and paid like what they should be paid. You know what I mean? Yeah, Bandcamp should get their 20 or 30% because they are providing the platform and they have costs that are involved there. But there is no other platform, at least not that I know of, that artists can get that level of just monetary compensation for their art.
Yeah.
And I worry that a company that is, not wholly owned, but if my research was correct, at least partially owned by a huge conglomerate company, Tencent.
Yeah.
That worries me.
Yeah.
It worries me that, slowly the artist cut is going to get smaller and smaller, and the Free Friday thing is going to go away. And it's like, ultimately, them being bought out by a huge conglomerate like that, they're all about the bottom line, and who's going to suffer is the artist at the end of the day. So that's what really concerns me.
Yeah.
Which there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. They could just kind of leave it as it is, and like you said, use it as more of kind of a tie-in thing. And I don't know, but it does concern me quite a bit, simply because it was, to me, it's like, imagine the last just pristine spring of water in the entire world, and it's like basically mostly free for everybody, and they take a little bit of a cut, but it's like, okay, there's one place I can go that I can get clean water, and then it gets bought by Nestle.
Yeah.
That's what
right.
That's what this feels like to me, but I could be wrong, and maybe I'm just a little bit cynical, but hopefully it's not as bad as I'm thinking it's going to be, but I don't think it bodes well, that's for sure. I'll just leave it at that.
Now, if Porter Robinson does a concert in like Abzu or Stardew Valley, or there's like some other like, I think we get Seth in then, right? Yeah.
He's kind of done something like that. With he did so when COVID first really took off, he had gotten into this habit of throwing his own music festivals in California called Second Sky.
Okay.
And he was doing that for a few years. these kind of just like small scale, not overblown, but like big for an independent EDM artist,
Yeah.
And he would feature like people like Jay Wolf and stuff, like these kind of smaller, kind of burgeoning EDM artists kind of come in, and he would throw these festivals, and when COVID first ramped up, he transitioned that into a digital space. So he created this digital version of Second Sky that ran in your browser, and it was totally free. And you kind of had this little avatar, and you ran around like it was a little MMO or something.
Really?
Cool.
And and the concerts were performed with all of those artists inside your browser like that, and it was kind of neat.
Wow.
And innovative, and again, it was free. You just logged in and you just chilled out, and it was kind of cool. You could chat with people and have little emotes and customize your little avatar and stuff, and it was kind of neat. And I'm with you, Adam. I it's not at all like seeing the show live and having the sound hit you, and it's it's not at all the same, but it's a neat little thing, and I embrace the digital stuff too as much as I can, and I agree with you too. Though I don't think you're off base to be concerned about the Bandcamp thing. I'm a little bit, I worry about the bottom line for the smaller artists and stuff, and the people that are kind of like making getting a good deal, a fair deal for a change off of Bandcamp and whatnot. And I think it would be good for them to keep it as it is, because then you still have that welcoming place, and you draw in more artists.
Yeah.
You get more people on the platform, and if you ruin that, sure, it's good for your bottom line, but are you going to lose out in the long run by making people go somewhere else and not having that safe haven for them anymore? So we'll see, man.
We'll see.
It looks like, so did Anna Monoguchi perform at this Second Sky thing? I'm looking at the stuff right now.
I think they did once. I think they performed at one of the live shows. I don't think they were
okay,
at the
not in the virtual
show.
one. I was going to say that feels very meta to me, to be watching a band that is predominantly based on video games performing within a video game like that would be pretty cool.
It was neat. It was neat. It was definitely like a cool little experience. You just kind of pop in there for a week and introduce me to some new artists, and it was really cool. He's good about that. He's good at working with, because that's kind of how he came out. I mean, we could do a whole Porter Robinson episode at some point if we wanted to.
I mean, I'd like to get we do an expand my mind thing where we try to explain to each other stuff. I'd have my mind expanded on Porter for sure. All right, let's hit some. You want to do some music history stuff here?
Yeah, I got some fun little factoids for this day in music history, or this weekend. Obviously, we record a little bit early, but on March 11th, 1996, I love these like weird little trivia factoids that I had no idea about. But Pulp singer and frontman Jarvis Cocker walked free from Kensington police station after police failed to charge him with any criminal activity following his quote-unquote stage invasion of Michael Jackson's performance at the Brit Awards in February of that year.
That sounds amazing. I don't know what happened here, but that sounds incredible.
Love that.
What is this? I mean, like, I don't know, when you guys think of stage invasions, I think of Soy Bomb. I don't know if you remember Soy Bomb, but it was like Bob Dylan was performing on some thing. I forget what he was performing on even, and some guy just comes out with his shirt off and it just says Soy Bomb written across his chest.
I remember that.
I do remember that.
Soy Bomb, and then there was the VMAs where one of the guys from Rage, I can't remember, I think it was Tim Comerford, climbed up on like the Statue of Liberty head and like just sat up there like rocking it for half an hour, and they just couldn't get him to come down. But I'm gonna have to. I see a video of it, so I'm gonna have to watch this and see what it is. But good that he got away with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure knowing him, it was just like a tongue in cheek, like I'm just being cheeky kind of thing. You know what I mean? Sure. But yeah, no charges were filed. And March 12th, 1969, Paul McCartney married Linda Eastman, as we know. Then later the same day, Paul went to Abbey Road Studios to go to work, being the workaholic that he is. But on the same day, George Harrison and wife Patty were arrested and charged with possession of 120 marijuana cigarettes.
Whoa.
Wow.
Sounds about right.
I mean, that's like a day and a half for George Harrison. So,
right.
so clearly no intent to distribute there. That's just his
Holy
like
moly.
weekend usage, I would assume.
Also, Adam,
Anyway.
hold on, because he didn't just jump up on the stage. He mooned Michael Jackson. Dude.
He did?
He
Why
mooned.
didn't it-
He mooned the Moonwalker.
And got away with it, apparently.
He got up on stage, dude. He got up on stage. He faced away from he faced towards the crowd, mooned Michael Jackson, and then like did a wafting noise, a wafting motion behind his butt. And he said it was because he felt he was watching Michael Jackson do his Jesus act on stage, and he was feeling ill, and he thought it was distasteful. So he was like, "Well, if you're going to do just something distasteful, I'm going to show you what rubbish this is." And he jumped up on the stage.
Here's something distasteful. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Wow.
That makes it even more crazy that he wasn't like, they couldn't even charge him with like public indecency.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I mean, not that I would be like calling for that, but like, I mean, you get a little bit of a pass when you're famous, right?
I guess, but learn something new. This is fantastic. Wow. Thank you for enlightening me on this.
Well, I'm shocked that like the little like snippets that I was reading didn't include that minor detail of the story.
It's so good.
My goodness. And then March 13th, 2006, the Sex Pistols refused to attend their own induction into the U.S. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. Blondie, Herb Alpert, and Black Sabbath were all inducted, but Sex Pistols posted a handwritten note on their website calling the institution, quote, urine in wine, adding, "We're not your monkeys. We're not coming. You're not paying attention."
I mean,
typical-
that tracks. That
Yes.
tracks. Yeah.
Absolutely.
guys, this is rock and roll. This is, I mean, look.
What did you expect?
It's so good. It's funny to have these two stories back to back. I was just talking to someone the other day. I don't know if you caught, there was like a little side story. I mean, Queens of the Stone Age isn't that big of a band, you know, like the whatever.
I mean, they headlined pretty recently here, ACL Fest. So
yeah, that's true. Josh Homme has been having some like personal issues where he is splitting from his wife, and he got slapped with like not a cease and desist, a restraining order, because like he saw the guy who's dating his ex-wife in an Apple store in California and like went up to him, grabbed him, and threatened to throw him off of a balcony. And like,
whoa,
it's this
yeah,
whole
it sounds like he has some anger management issues. You know, he's gotten some, flack here and there for that kind of stuff, which yeah, he shouldn't be doing.
He shouldn't be doing it, but like the way that the article was written, it felt like everybody was very shocked about this. And I'm like, he's a rock star. Like, I don't know if we're used to this like rock star attitude of these things. Like this Jarvis Cocker thing today, he would have been charged. He would have he would have been canceled. It would have been all this other stuff, right? And not that I'm opposed to holding people accountable when they do things that are inappropriate. I don't think that Josh Homme should be threatening anybody, but at the same time, I don't know if we should be super surprised that a dude who like has that kind of swagger, and I mean, like, that's just what rock stars were like, and you hold them accountable, but don't be surprised by it, like that's this is the Sex Pistols are not going to show up to an award show and Jarvis Cocker's going to pull his pants down. Like, what are you going to do? And Paul McCartney's going to smoke a bunch of pot. Oh no, George Harrison's going to smoke.
Well, they both
probably
did,
all gonna
I'm
smoke a
sure.
bunch of pot. Yeah,
They absolutely.
I'm sure they.
Paul got arrested in Japan, I believe, because he brought it over, something like that. I remember a story like that. But yeah, I mean, so obviously we don't condone any, misogynistic or any kind of behavior that would harm anybody else. But there is kind of that whole, I guess now maybe it's more moved over to other genres, but yeah, that used to be what rock and roll and punk music meant, is like, I'm going to do whatever the F I want to do, and there's nothing you can do about it because I'm a person and I'm just going to do it. Yeah. So, obviously that has led to a lot of toxicity, but it's like, there were some harmless aspects of it that I think we're missing.
Yeah.
Just that kind of,
well, they're artists.
It's so rare, right? Yeah. The artist thing. And I think you see a little bit of it in hip hop right now. Like, I'm going to do what I want. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit in the pop sphere. There are certain artists that are like, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And obviously barring any, like I mentioned, anything that harms anybody else, it's even like stuff like Kanye West releasing an album on a device that you can only get through him, like
for $200. Yeah.
It's like, all right. I mean, can I, like, it's kind of crazy. It's weird, but like, can I blame him? It's Kanye West. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
not to go on too much of a tangent, but like, I feel like on the rock side, it's the work and the reality of it or whatever has more so been on like mental health and kind of just like being an expressive person. I feel like when rock kind of pivoted, I mean, it's gone all over the place, but when rock pivoted in the 90s to this kind of is aversion to glam and more towards certain types of sincerity. Again, not to sound super morbid here, but like when Chris Cornell or Chester Bennington died, like, and everybody is surprised. Like, you shouldn't be as surprised about that, just like you shouldn't be surprised about Josh Homme getting into a fight, like those. If you listen to Linkin Park lyrics and you listen to Chris Cornell lyrics, like, those guys were tackling with a lot of things that didn't just come from nowhere. That's not an act. These
how do you get that stuff out? You get it out through your art. I mean, even people like Robin Williams, like comedy, typically comes from a dark place. And, these artists are expressing themselves, and we love them for the fact that they're expressing themselves. And when that comes out as negative energy, we're like, "Ooh, don't like that." You know what I mean? But
hang on, don't like that version.
Right. But these are people, and they've been given a pass, kind of, and it's like, that's probably not good. People should be held accountable for their actions when they're not good. And I'm glad that we are, if not fully, we're coming into a place as a civilization where we don't just laugh that stuff off and we hold people accountable now. But like, artists need to be able to express themselves, and maybe if we paid them better, they wouldn't need to lash out in other ways.
Yeah.
Not to bring it back around to that, but I just did.
No, it's true. So. It's totally true. Yeah.
It's true. Well, and not only that, but I mean, like, not only is the art completely, representative of the artist who made it, but like that same eccentricity and, neurosis or whatever is what they've built their career on, like that's why we love them, know? So it's just like you said, like, you have to kind of accept all of that. You kind of have to accept the good with the bad.
Yeah, you have to see, that there's a place that it's coming from. Like, there's a source. I
Not
also
endorse
think
it, but accept it.
Yeah.
I also think that Coca-Cola Starlight is
dude. How are you halfway through that bottle?
You comes from more of it already than I could.
I think it's unicorn pee. I think the source of it is unicorn pee.
Liam.
I'm going to make it
more
through.
Than oh my god!
I'm doing it for Seth, guys.
More power to you, dude. Look, I have nothing but respect for how much of that you're able to hold down.
Let's hit some birthdays before we flip it over here.
Yeah, really quick. So March 11th, 1950. Happy birthday to Bobby McFerrin. American jazz vocalist and conductor, known probably most famously for his number one single, Don't Worry, Be Happy. Who doesn't know that song? And how can you not, be a little bit happier after listening to it? So thank you, Bobby. Appreciate it. Happy birthday. March 11th, 1964, Vinnie Paul, drummer and producer and co-founder of Pantera. We're big fans of Pantera down here in Texas, of course.
I think he passed just a few years ago. Obviously, Dimebag was killed in a crazy accident. Or incident, not an accident. But rest in peace, Vinnie Paul.
An attack was what it was, unfortunately.
That's really what it was,
Which is crazy. They call these people fans. It's so weird. March 11th, 1968, Lisa Loeb, U.S. singer-songwriter who had the 1994 number one hit Stay from the film Reality Bites. She was the first artist to have a number one single without a recording contract.
She was also the first artist that Adam ever had a crush on.
I actually didn't, and I'm very open about my celebrity crushes. And that wasn't one of them.
Who was your first celebrity musician crush, Adam?
My first celebrity musician crush? It's got to be both of the lovely ladies from Veruca Salt.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's almost a definite. And it was hard to pick if I was trying to pick one. But I was like, why? I mean, I'm never going to meet either one of them anyway. So why not both?
I thought
Joan
Gwen
Jett
Stefani.
for me, man.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Joan Jett for me.
Joan Jett was
Big
badass.
time.
It's like her and Pat Benatar. It's like, all right, you could probably kick my butt, and that's cool.
But I kind of like that.
That's how I felt. Shirley Manson was mine, and that was the same thing with her. I was like, this lady's going to beat me up, and that's really cool. Yeah. I like Gwen Stefani too, but there was something about Shirley Manson for me, man.
It's the scary women thing. Like,
that's right.
This has been well established on this podcast. Like, if I get to choose, I'm choosing the scary one.
I don't know if y'all have ever heard. There's a really kind of obscure, like kind of nerdcore rapper. His name's MC Paul Barman. I don't know if you ever heard of Paul Barman.
No.
He's got a I won't repeat the title of the song because it's it's not
we try
G-rated,
to keep it family friendly.
Yeah, it's not family friendly, so I won't repeat the title of the song, but he does have a song that includes the lyric, I would disrobe Lisa Loeb. So there's
hilarious. That's amazing.
Okay. We're going to get in trouble.
That's all good.
All right. March 11th, 1969, Rami Jaffee, who is officially a Foo Fighter, keyboard player for the Foo Fighters, also with the Wallflowers, and did work with a number of artists over the years. March 11th, 1979, Joel and Benji Madden, twin brothers from Good Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
March 12th, 1948, James Taylor, American singer-songwriter. I'm not sure, but if there's any artist that comes anywhere close to the number of Spoon albums that I have, of which I have all of them, it's James Taylor.
Really? I mean, the guy's an icon, and he's one of those people who he's getting up there, and it's like, someone just keep him safe, please. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
put
like
him in
Willie
a bubble,
Nelson.
let him.
Yeah.
Yes. They can all get together with, Paul McCartney and
Bob Dylan. Yeah.
And some of whatever Paul McCartney snuck on the plane, and they'll be good. March 12th, 1969, Graham Coxon, British guitarist and singer, primarily known as the guitar player for Blur. Mm-hmm. Also, some actually really great solo material.
Solo stuff, yeah. I've heard some of the solo stuff is good.
And last but not least, March 13th, 1960, happy birthday to Adam Clayton, British-Irish musician with U2. As a member of U2, has received 22 Grammy Awards.
It's bananas.
Whoa.
Yeah.
22.
Yeah. It's pretty
Dang.
pretty wild.
Well, that's it for our side A. We've got a lot of ground to cover, and I'm sure Seth is going to lead the way here as we highlight the career of Hideki Naganuma and his work primarily with the Jet Set Radio series, Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future, which you may or may have not played, but it'll be a fun ride either way.
Yeah.
So stick with us. We're going to flip it over and we'll see you on side B. We are back on side B of this 19th episode of Retro Groove, and we're gonna hand the reins here over to our good friend Seth. And I'm super interested in hearing more about the career and history of Naganuma, because that soundtrack, particularly for both of the Jet Set Radio games, affected me so much that I'm really interested to hear more about a lot of the other work that he's done. So, and you coming off of doing the YouTube video on the missed opportunity for the Nintendo and Jet Set Radio connection to happen, are probably a lot more well-versed in this than anybody else than I can think of. So why don't you go ahead, Seth, and kind of get us started with what you know about his early days as a composer, a game music producer, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I mean, just like you said, his music means a great deal to me, and I think that I think that his music has such a particular like vibe and flavor to it, and like something that, you know, really kind of resonated with me in a way that nothing else had before or really since. And yeah, doing the video, I did quite a bit of research for him and his career and stuff, but not even really because it was pertinent so much to the video itself, as much as like I was when I was sitting down to make that video, I wanted to make it Nintendo focused because it was tying into my Nintendo channel and podcast and all that. So I was like, you know, how in the world do I tie Jet Set Radio into Nintendo? And I kind of found my pathway there. But one of the angles I was going to take to it actually was the fact that he very clearly influenced the music of Splatoon.
Yeah.
And then I come to find out that he had actually applied to do the music for Splatoon and applied several times to work at Nintendo, and Nintendo wasn't interested in working with him.
Crazy.
And,
that surprises me a lot.
Yeah, he's a really, really interesting guy. So he's like 50. I think he's 49 or 50 or something like that. And he's been making music basically his entire life. I was watching this interview with him that he did on a Japanese talk show, and he told this anecdote about how he had entered into a competition when he was in like third grade, and it was at like a regional level where the grand prize, he didn't end up winning, but the grand prize was to like do like a guest composer spot on like a feature film or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Like big time stuff. And you're talking about a third grader. It's like, dude, I was like picking my nose and watching cartoons in third grade. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, obviously that kind of stuff, like he told a story about when he was like 8 years old, he was messing around with like an electric organ and stuff. And, and you know, you translate that into early adolescence or adulthood, you know, the route that he went, which is a huge part of Japanese music culture, is DJing and live music. And that's, the whole kind of club culture is huge in Japan. And I think that's so evident in his music because he's doing the typical DJ stuff so much. And we've already kind of touched on, samples and stuff that he's taken and stuff that he does on like the production angle where, he just takes things and just like chops them up a particular way, or he does things on the production side. He'll take a sample and like slow it down enough to make it sound like its own unique thing. He's got such a unique kind of artistic hand. I think what struck me the most about when I was listening to the soundtrack, because and you do a good job of spelling it out in the YouTube video, but the whole kind of core concept of Jet Set Radio Future is the young generation kind of coming up and bucking against the oppression of the higher ups or the older generation or whatever you want to call it. And what he kind of does throughout the original portions of that soundtrack is you can hear little like snippets of like old timey vocal or spoken word samples that sound really old, right? And he takes that and cuts it up and turns it into something completely new and modern and fresh. And I thought that was so beautiful, the way that kind of correlated what was happening in, the game itself. So you're right on the money with the whole sample thing, because that's happening like all throughout that soundtrack.
Yeah, and it seems like, I mean, that era that these games are predominantly from is also that same era where you had Chemical Brothers and Fatboy Slim and Moby. Yep. Like you had sample heavy progressive EDM music coming out then. And I feel like his ear for some of the like bits and pieces that are woven throughout these songs is so crazy. I am definitely someone who, if someone around me says a phrase or a word a certain way, it'll just get stuck in my head on a loop, like it just sounds good or whatever. And I feel like he must be that to the nth degree, where it's just like he like there's a Richard Nixon sample up against like a 2 Live Crew or whatever it is. Like there's all these like classic hip hop and like audio recording samples that he's just merged together to paint his own picture. And it's an incredible talent to have. I saw
I don't
something.
Even know. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I saw something. I think it was the same interview that you were talking about. He was talking about how he was working at Blue Note in Tokyo, and like to be exposed to all that kind of music. It makes so much sense that this would be the end result for a creative person like him, right? Like you're just getting that jazz, you're getting that funk, the bossa nova, and then you have the ability and the ear for digital sampling, and the gates must open wide.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so wholly unique, and it is such a singular talent to be able to hear like, to be able to hear like Hot, Hot, Hot by Arrow or like Buster Poindexter's version. I don't remember which one he samples, but in Sonic Rush, he samples the Hot, 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 and just the way
so crazy.
It's like you can tell that he heard that and he's like, I'm going to use that in a track one day.
Yeah.
It's just like, I can't even wrap my mind around it. As somebody who has like, played around with music throughout my whole life, I couldn't even fathom having that sort of ear to be able to do that. But, the extension of that is his music means so much to me and takes me to such not only just a place in time, but you mentioned it earlier, Adam, like the place in the games, like, when I was making that video, literally as I was writing the script, I was like, this is the song that I'm going to play at this moment. Like I was hearing the soundtrack in my head as I was writing it, because I just knew his voice is so clear that I just knew what part of his voice. It was almost like he was a second narrator on the video, like literally, like his voice was coming through in my head through his music as I'm writing it.
Wow.
I'm not listening to it. It's just in there, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. That's the mark of an artist.
Yeah, it's so impactful. And you're right. There's something, I love what you said earlier, Adam, about the use of like old school kind of samples. There's a song, a track in the Jet Set Radio Future soundtrack called Oldies But Goodies. And it's like, it takes a lot of like old school sound samples and whatnot, but it couldn't be. It's just funk and like hip hop, and it's got like all this kind of like brassy stuff behind it. It's like so far removed from being something that is like old school, but it uses all this old school stuff to make something new and vibrant and fresh.
His music feels like it has momentum to it, right? There's an energy that you can't just apply it to anything. I feel like you could probably find some film, some movie stuff that would gel with that kind of energy as well, but it does seem wholly well suited for certain types of video games. It makes sense that Sega Rally, that Ollie King game, and obviously Jet. I keep going to say Jet Grind because that's like that's the. I wasn't a Sega kid. Like I had a friend who had a Dreamcast, and we would go over, and he had Jet Grind Radio, and he had Power Stone. Those are like the two
that was
games.
the U.S. name of it.
Yeah, but was it? Did it change to Jet Set Radio at some point?
In the U.S., Jet Grind Radio was the name of the Dreamcast game, the first game.
Yes.
But because there was some kind of copyright problem there.
Right.
Then the sequel, Jet Set Radio Future, they went with the Jet Set.
Okay.
So in Japan, the first game was Jet Set Radio. In the U.S., it was Jet Grind Radio.
Okay, got it.
It's same thing with like the whole Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest things.
Right.
The early games, it was Dragon Warrior, and then whatever the copyright issue was got resolved, and now it's Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
So in the same way, that first game was Jet Grind Radio in the U.S., but the second game is Jet Set Radio Future in both regions.
Yeah.
So.
It's just interesting. I definitely remember going over to my friend Dan's house and playing this, playing on his Dreamcast, and I was playing Tony Hawk 2, I guess it was, on my N64 around the same time, and that had that licensed music that we were talking about, right? Like that was all holy stuff, and we didn't know what most of that music was at the time, but it was a bunch of different voices and a bunch of different styles that were woven together by a music director who had kind of hand selected the bands and the genres that they wanted to represent. And so to think that then I'm playing this stylistically different game, but still with that same energy, right? You're still jumping up staircases and grinding on stuff or whatever. And to have one guy really be the mastermind that is like creating the art of that and embodying the spirit of that game, super impressive. Again, on the momentum tip though, so I also not a Sega kid, but I played my fair share of Sonic games over the years, and I feel like Sonic Rush, I owned, I played it, I liked it. Like as I think back to it, I don't think it was jarring enough to me at the time, but now when I went back and listened to the music there, like it was pretty different and still is pretty different from anything else that has been in a Sonic game, right? Like he definitely did something very different from what they did, and I think it worked really cool. I mean, there, like you said, Hot 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 stands out as like, I can't even believe that that's in the game.
Right.
But we've gotten to the point now where Sonic Forces, the song from Sonic Forces is sung by the lead singer of Hoobastank. Like it's it's a very different place that we're in.
Right.
So I kind of, it would be nice to go back to that. I don't know. The Splatoon thing is crazy to me. I didn't realize that it makes, obviously the influence is there. I didn't realize he had tried to work on that project. That's
Yeah. So I imagine that when you get into, the video game composing scene and stuff, and by this time he had, left Sega in an official capacity for quite some time, and I'm sure he heard that the project was kicking up and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the influence is really clear, and it's also just like the sort of like J-pop, the underground indie rock scene in Japan. There's a really good indie rock, Japanese indie rock band that samples and plays on I believe it's on both the first and second Jet Set Radio game called Guitar Vader. And they're super good, and like it's got that kind of vibe in the Splatoon soundtrack, and it makes perfect sense. And I don't know what the reservation was with working with him on this. I don't know if it's because of the Sega connection. Nintendo is a very, famously conservative and traditional company, and they're famous competitors. I don't know if that has something to do with it. I don't know if they were just kind of like clashing creatively on the vision for the project or something, but he had said, and actually it was kind of funny because in response to my video, I think I kind of put him in like a bad place a little bit, sadly, because he had retweeted my video, which was super sweet.
Yeah.
And really cool. That was such a cool moment for me to know that he had even seen it at all.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was huge for me.
Amazing.
I can't even tell you guys. I'm sitting there, weeping at my desk.
It's incredible.
And, it was an incredible moment for me. And he was talking about, though, like he had subtweeted like 3 other times with clear like kind of resentment a little bit for Nintendo and kind of like, I tried, and it just didn't work out. So who knows? We'll probably never know the full story there, but he's a very open book, and his influence is so clearly felt. And one of the things I really love about him is how willing he is, even though he isn't in he's not a consistent presence in video games. He is still so willing to work with like upcoming like independent studios who are making, art that is influenced by his work. That's something that I get into a lot in the video, is like the indie scene is full of games that are influenced by Jet Set Radio and by his music specifically. And like they'll reach out to him, and he's like happy to work with them, and he's so supportive. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, he's one of the composers on. He did a track for that studio Team Reptile's previous game, Lethal League. He did a track for that. He did music for Hover, which is another video, another game that I referenced in the video. Mm-hmm. And he's just like super willing to kind of do this collaborative, creative thing that I really appreciate for a guy who's 50 years old and doesn't really work in this space anymore. It's really cool.
Again, it to me, it speaks of just the mark of a true artist. An artist wants to and needs to create.
Right.
And there's nothing, in my opinion, more satisfying for an artist than to be able to collaborate with other artists and create something that's greater than the sum of its parts. And so I feel like that's what he's after. And, it's so funny with like Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. It's like, if you look at it, you would think, oh, it's a sequel, you know what I mean, to Jet Set Radio Future.
Totally.
But Sega wants apparently nothing to do with that franchise anymore. So an independent studio has taken it upon themselves to continue that legacy, and to see Naganuma partner with them is just so beautiful to me. It's like how can I even compare it? It's like if the Foo Fighters had broken up and some rando like me wanted to form a band, and Dave Grohl was like, "Oh, yeah, sure, I'll be in your band." It's like that's what it seems like to me. It's something that intensely crazy. And it's really cool to see, and I can't wait for the game. It looks amazing.
Or if you decided to shoot a movie in your backyard with a bunch of like ragtag kids on an adventure, and then you just like tweeted at John Williams, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll write a piece of music for you. Yeah, I'll do the soundtrack for that. That's
the
cool.
theme song,
sure,
why not? Yeah.
I got some friends at the
London Symphony Orchestra,
New York,
Boston Pops. Yeah.
Make a few calls.
Well, that's what it seems like. It's like the same caliber to me, and it's so crazy that in the video game world that these kinds of wild collaborations are possible.
Yeah, I think that one thing to touch on here too is also it's a broader issue, but it's the actual accessibility of this music and the fact that we're talking and Seth, I'm hoping that we can do a few of these on different composers that you can't easily go and get their music anywhere. When you hear him talk about how he's creating these, to take Adam's turn, these sonic landscapes or whatnot, he's crafting this music. We don't know what his contract is. He's hired by Sega. He was a Sega employee. So Sega potentially owns the rights to the masters of all of that. Again, I don't know how all that stuff technically works, but like he doesn't have control over putting his music out there. Then this is stuff that he has made, and then we can't properly consume it. We can go on YouTube. That's basically our only option unless there's some rare vinyl pressing of some of this, or if we start to see things trickle out on Spotify. But I mean, I admittedly didn't do a whole lot of poking around on the different streaming platforms, but I don't think that there's a ton out there. I saw the Hover stuff that he did was on a few, but it's a bummer.
Yeah, so some of that stuff is out there. You can find, and it's not complete, but you can find some of those tracks on Spotify. Sega has gotten a little bit better at kind of slowly releasing some of that stuff and making it, publicly available. But I think it's because Sega's at this place with the franchise in general where they're kind of like, well, that was in our past and we respect it and we love it, but we can't make those games anymore.
Right.
And that's I touch on this in the video a little bit. That's the vibe that you get from even the development staff is like, dude, like we're not 25 anymore, the average age of the developers working on that game was 25 years old. And they're like, we can't make the same game we made when we were 25.
Sure.
Yep. So I think Sega's at this place where they're kind of like, we're happy to let this have its place in our company's history and whatnot, but we're gonna let something like Bomb Rush Cyberfunk do its thing, and we're not gonna hound them too much about it because we're just happy to see it be its own thing. And I think that's the vibe with Hideki too. I think he's just he just wants to facilitate it and support it is the vibe that I get in any way that he can. And if he can contribute to it, put his own stamp on it while still encouraging, independent artists to make their art that's influenced by him, I think he's happy to facilitate that. And he's super active on like social media, for better or for worse. He's a top tier Twitter follow. I'll say that. He's an interesting guy, but he just it just comes through in the art, man. Like he just seems really passionate to keep this kind of vibe alive, to keep this kind of message, despite everything that's being like, this can't be out there. He's like, actually, yes, it can, and let's make sure the radio's still turned up, despite everything trying to turn it down.
Yeah. What's interesting too is that the whole even the whole idea of an independent game studio that didn't really even exist 20 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was, what was 20 years ago? PlayStation 2, Dreamcast, GameCube, Xbox. You didn't have independent game studios like you do now. Nowadays, you have independent game studios creating games that turn out to be blockbusters. Games like Hades and Celeste, and I'm sure we could list off 20 others, and they are now part of the landscape of gaming in general. And I think that it lends a lot of weight to the art and the artistry and the blood, sweat, and tears that go into creating these works of art. And I think that Naganuma is forward thinking enough to see that and not be like, oh, well, you know, I used to work for a, you know, tier 1 console creator, and
Sure, yeah.
you know, I worked for Sega, so you know, I'm above working with these relatively unknown independent studios. He's not like that. He's forward thinking enough to say, okay, this is the future of gaming, because as the large corporations become more corporate and bigger
Sure.
and more bloated, it seems like the understated independent studios are getting a little bit more of the spotlight than they used to, or in some cases a lot more of the spotlight. So that's really cool to see, particularly with, like, you know, Bomber Cyberfunk. There's a whole lot of potential there for like an overarching brand new franchise that we've never seen before. And I'm excited for it. I think that there is the potential for a lot of people to just base their careers around, you know, if that turns out to be a hit independent game, you could have a vinyl release, you could have all kinds of stuff branching off of that. You already see it with vinyl releases of independent game studio games.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see this crossover of, you know, games that never would have seen the light of day otherwise 10 to 20 years ago. And now there's a cult following behind it. And there's a vinyl release of the soundtrack, and it just all kind of ties together. And it's just such an interesting time. You know, it's like what a time to be alive to see this thing come up, and, you know, what's it going to turn into? You know, are we going to see something like, maybe something not exactly like, but similar to like a Steam Deck, where you've got a platform for games to be created by these unknowns, by these independent studios that create this amazing stuff that otherwise wouldn't see the light of day. And how many artists are involved? You know, you've got visual artists, you've got music producing artists. It's just mind-boggling. I'm like geeking out on this big time.
Yeah, I mean, well, you see it happening in the actual, like, the music industry itself, where you have artists that, you know, they've established themselves and have migrated away from the majors, and you had this growth of indie labels and these indie kind of mini conglomerates that gave better deals to some of those artists, that gave them more control than the majors did. And so maybe an artist like Hideki can do this more freely now, where he's not signing away the rights to his music to be controlled by a Sega or a Konami, and that he can partner up with a small indie studio and still retain some kind of control over his compositions. It does kind of bode well, I think, for better collaborative partnerships in gaming and in music. And yeah, seeing this vinyl boom, I mean, and that it's also available for streaming. So if you don't want to go buy your vinyl, your soundtracks on vinyl, that you can still access it in your car. It's really cool. I hope that more. I mean, we talk about Nintendo. We talk about a bunch of classic soundtracks that you can't find anywhere anymore. that Pokemon release is pretty huge. You're starting to see things like that. And it would be great if it was the start of a bigger movement for some of those companies to give us access to that content.
What's cool is we get to be fans of this medium, and it's still so young.
Yeah.
And it's changing so much and so rapidly, and we get to be fans of it on the ground floor of it.
Yeah.
You know, so we get to experience this stuff in real time, which is awesome. But I think, too, that, I mean, look, Hideki makes music that is unlike anything else. And so when that art inspires other artists, it's like, well... And this is something that I came to find just kind of like interacting with the Jet Set Radio community, because to promote my video, like I was on subreddits and Twitter communities and Discords and stuff, talking to people who are passionate about this stuff, and like they're hungry for any of it because you can't get it anywhere else.
Yep.
You can't get it anywhere else, and so for him to be on the ground floor of that, it is so young and it is so fresh and exciting. So for the guy who influenced it to be a part of the art that he influenced it's beautiful, and I think it's really exciting to see all this stuff be carried forward. And we have things like Splatoon, but I can't point to another thing that's even similar musically in the video game space. Like, literally.
No, I mean, I feel like when you see a game like Rocket League, I could hear his music going into a game like that again. There's that momentum. There's a frenetic kind of nature to what he creates. I could see it in certain Fortnite type shooter games or something like that, right? Or an Apex or something. Like, I feel like there's obvious influences in a lot of different games, but I could see his own compositions and his own work going in that direction. Who knows? The crazy thing for me too is when I think about iconic songs or soundtracks or whatever. I mean, you guys are talking about how when you hear the music from these games, it takes you back, right? And that's not that's not just unique to his music. That can apply to a ton of games that you had personal experiences with, right? And when I think of I hear certain sounds or whatever, and it'll remind me of playing Blaster Master or Bucky O'Hare on the NES, and I go back and I look up to see who the composer is, and they worked on like 10 or 12, they have 10 or 12 credits from the NES to the Super NES or whatever, and then gone. And I'm like, Seth, you said it like,
where'd you go?
We're at that early point. You were talking about those punk bands that you liked when you were growing up, right? And like, some of those guys probably work for State Farm Insurance now. Like, where are they? Like, that's just because the industry wasn't there to support that, or people have their own life tangents or whatever.
They got to make a living.
But like, you lose talent, they drop out of the scene because there isn't that sustaining option there. And so hopefully what we're talking about here prevents that from happening and gives growth to certain areas, because those songs in Blaster Master are bangers, man. And like, where is that guy? I don't know what happened. Come back. I think he's like a professor or something, which is super cool. But like, how about I make some music? Like, that'd be awesome. So do we know what Hideki's up to now, though? Like, he's working with certain game studios, but like, I'd love original compositions to be released, or an album or something like that. Like, is there a drip feed of just music that's not tethered to video game releases? Because you do have to think, and his samples are really smart and clever and manipulated, but like, sampling is also a slippery slope. Like, when you start putting stuff out there that has a bunch of classic samples, you got to worry about someone coming for you. So I guess there's that side of it.
Yeah, so he's definitely interested in doing more original stuff, and he does. Hideki's got a SoundCloud that he uploads some original compositions. Some of them are from games that he's worked on, like Hover and stuff like that. And He did a few remixes for like Persona 3, the dancing spin-off for Persona 3.
Nice.
So he's got some of that stuff up on his personal SoundCloud, but he has expressed interest in doing a fully original, album completely removed from the world of video games, because again, outside of, he's not working for a Sega or a Nintendo or anything anymore. Outside of doing kind of independent work for support for these studios, he's not really in the game scene anymore. So yeah. I think he's interested in doing something like you were talking about, making kind of original compositions removed from all of that. So hopefully we'll see more of that in the future.
It'd be awesome, man. And it feels like we're gonna see more and more of this as time goes on. Like the games. I mean, we mentioned Celeste. I'm buying these soundtracks now. I'm excited to be a part of that scene and to be invested in. It feels like you're a part of it. It feels like you're engaged and can have, I guess, more of like a tangible relationship with this kind of stuff. It's not just like. You would go see a movie growing up and then you'd be able to go and buy the soundtrack for it, right? Like there was this whole sort of universe or multi-textural experience when it came to a project that you liked. And it's one thing to buy a game, but it's another thing to be able to have a game, have a backstory, have an understanding, have the actual soundtrack that you can engage with when you're not playing the game. It feels like we're headed in the right direction with it for sure.
Yeah, and I think and I think too that and Adam was touching on this a little bit before, the way that the power that video game music has is so experiential. It's not the same as just like, oh, this is that theme that plays during this scene in that movie. And we get some of that with Nobuo Uematsu, the legendary composer for Final Fantasy, is, famous and people point back to things like the opera scene in Final Fantasy VI or, whatever is these kind of like standout drilled in your head moments. But for me to go back to what Adam said at the start of the episode, for me, it's stuff that's experiential within the game. When Aisle 10 by Scapegoat Wax comes on, I'm like, all of a sudden I'm in a very particular area in the game where that plays more often than others. And, humming the bass line, which is like the main thing of the GG's Garage, that stuff puts me in that place and time. And they did a really cool thing with these games where certain tracks are prioritized in different areas. So you develop an innate musical association. The Scrappy, that track plays primarily in the sewer, so it makes you feel like you're in Poison Jam's hideout, and that stuff is so powerful, and that's so unique to video games. I love it when video games as an art form can express what is unique to them. That's something I can't get in a book or a movie,
Right, because you are experiencing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. And, I think sometimes video games get kind of swept to the side as far as an art form goes. And I think that's completely backwards because, everything that goes into making a movie, everything that goes into making a TV show, everything that goes into writing a book, it's all there, but there's so much more involved. And the difference is, rather than you being a passive observer or a spectator in what's going on, it's placing you, and they've proven this psychologically, your brain doesn't know the difference. Your brain, that's the reason why, when you have, when you get to a boss battle, or you have a really, really intense moment in a video game, your heart rate increases. You start sweating. You know what I mean? Your brain doesn't know the difference. Your brain thinks you're there. And I think that's very, very unique as far as art forms and storytelling goes. There's no other medium that puts you right there as far as your brain is concerned. Your brain thinks you're there because you are directly interacting with this world that's been created by a group of people. And music is a huge part of that. And, you know, in the same way that a particular James Taylor song might put me right back in 1986 with my mom on the back porch eating watermelon, a particular Naganuma track puts you right back in the sewers, you know what I mean, in Jet Set Radio Future. Your brain doesn't know the difference. It thinks you've actually been there. And that's amazing to me.
Did you say that Scapegoat Wax's Aisle 10 is in this game?
Aisle 10. It is. Yeah.
It is.
So cool.
I love that song so much.
Yeah.
And it's such a like iconic. Everybody who's played Jet Set Radio Future knows that song. Like it's an iconic song. And again, like the samples are crazy. And it's almost like the lengths that he goes to with some of his samples, the production almost feels like a Weird Al song. You know, like it's that level of like intense, like over the top, you know, at once goofy, but also, you know, poppy. But then you've got a few of those like actual licensed tracks in there because it's not like an Aisle 10 remix. It's just straight up Aisle 10.
That's amazing.
You know, right.
That I had that album. That was a Grand Royal. They were on Grand Royal, Adam. That was the Beastie Boys label we were just talking about before. Yep. That's crazy.
Well aware.
Wow. Huh. I remember the music video for that song. Man, I loved that song, and I One Hit Wonder song too. But it's a great song.
Yeah.
Let me just take this pause to mention that Liam has entirely finished his bottle of
Yeah, we're good.
Oh my gosh.
Starlight.
The champion.
Which I think probably signals that we're wrapping up the podcast here because I have no more unicorn pee to drink.
It probably signals too that you're entitled to some compensation in the future, I think.
No. We'll see those infomercials just like how we saw, you know, you might be entitled to compensation.
Yeah.
Have you consumed 2 or more bottles of Coca-Cola Starlight in the past 5 years? Yeah.
To eat some weird Doritos or something next time.
So thoughts and prayers for Liam after his consumption of this.
I do my best.
Nuclear sludge of a drink.
Whatever this is. But Seth, man, wow, thank you for coming on and just being a part of the RetroGroove experience.
Thank you.
We've had an absolute blast. I feel like we could like continue this for
I could be here all night. You're gonna have to force
hours.
me to end this because otherwise I'm not going to. Like you're gonna have to kick me out.
Exactly. That's how most of our episodes end. I mean, it's just you have to get to some semblance of a stopping point. But I really appreciate you coming on, and I feel like I think we've kind of hinted at this too as we've talked about this, but this is probably just kind of part 1 in a series of game composer episodes that we want to explore. So I'm here for it. I think both Liam and I are on the same page there. I'm happy about it. And it's just a beautiful crossover. So I can't wait to see what the future holds for these in-depth discussions. But so thank you for being on with us. Appreciate your time so much and your contribution to the overarching narrative of what's going on right now in gaming. And thank you, listener, for listening to RetroGroove. We are part of the RetroLogic Network. Check out the website, retrologic.games, for social links, merch, community, and more. We are also on Twitter, and we've recently been, delving a lot more into that wonderful world of social media and silliness. You can find us at retrologic_pod, and we'd be happy to interact with you and see what you think and take your suggestions for future topics to discuss on our episodes. And thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of it.
Thank you.
Y'all are great.
No, thank you. I mean, what a treat! What a treat to come on and talk to me. I never get to do this. It was such a blast.
Well, we're definitely going to have you on again.
Yeah,
much fun. Such a kindred spirit. This feels like the beginning of a long and fruitful friendship.
Absolutely.
So appreciate everything, and we will see y'all next time on RetroGroove.